before drinking it.
Hey everyone, Scott here. We're going to take a very short break for a word from our sponsors. Why do you think he was so associated in the Orthodox Church? Is that because he was part of the Greek-speaking world and it organically spread from there? Or was there a theological reason or something else?
I don't know. And it's funny that in both the East and the West, some of the most popular saints, in terms of folk popularity, are the saints that have the least historical, I should say the thinnest historical biography. Catherine of Alexandria is another great, great saint, revered in both East and West. And we know next to nothing about her historical existence. We do know more about St. Nicholas, but it does seem that his record is relatively thin in comparison to other great Greek figures like St. John Chrysostom or Gregory Nazianzus. These great figures we know a lot about, and yet it's the unknown Nicholas who becomes so popular.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Do you think it's because when there's so little about them, we can create stories, we can project onto them whatever it is we want to project, and semi-factual or completely fictional stories about what they do are inspiring, even if they're made up by a monk with an overactive imagination?
I think there may be a grain of truth to that, absolutely. I mean, to put it cynically, we're just sort of projecting our own wishes or aspirations onto a relatively unknown saint. But I think there's a more charitable way of looking at it as well, is that the sort of blank canvas it allows our imagination and our hopes to flourish in a particular way.
Yeah, that's a problem with, you study history long enough, it's hard not to think of everything in the most cynical way possible. And yeah,
that's right.
It's hard to turn off that deconstructive switch, and then you become intolerable to everyone around you. Yeah, well, actually, St. Nicholas was whatever, so.
Yeah, exactly. And I absolutely respect sorting through the wheat and the chaff and getting to the historical truth. But on the other hand, just because I respect that methodology doesn't mean I can't also respect folk traditions for a different reason.
Right.
Chesterton has the great line that he would rather believe in old wives' tales than old maids' facts. And I think there's truth to that when it comes to the stories of the saints.
Well, I'd like to look at some of the other cocktails that you put together and get your reasoning behind them and why you did them the way you did. One is the White Lady for the Feast of the Immaculate Conception.
I'm very excited about this cocktail. We did have a version of it in our original book, Drinking with the Saints, but a priest friend of mine wrote to me after the book came out and he said, I tried your White Lady and it was okay, but it wasn't the best version there is. And I knew there were several versions of the White Lady out there, but he sent me the version that he had been using, which he had gotten from a cocktail book from the 1960s. And it is absolutely phenomenal. It could quite possibly be, it is the best cocktail of the entire book. It takes a little more effort to make because you have to beat some egg white before mixing it into the drink. But it is so worth the effort. It is a well-balanced, delicious drink.
What's in the cocktail?
So there's egg white, and let me think. There is Cointreau, gin, vodka, and lemon juice. And it packs a punch, but it is really, really smooth and delicious.
Okay, I'll definitely have to put that in the show notes. I forget what I listed out from our last discussion. There was another cocktail that really sprung to your mind that invoked the spirit of the book, and it sounds like this one does too. But I'm curious why you connected this one to the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. Is it because of just the name of the drink, or was there something else too?
That's the main reason, because the Immaculate Conception celebrates the all-white purity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, even from her conception. And so the White Lady seemed to be the appropriate choice.
And historically, when in the year would this feast be celebrated, and how would it typically be celebrated from the beginning of the time when it's celebrated in the ancient period and the medieval period and on up?
Well, December 8th is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, and it was celebrated in both the Catholic and Orthodox world long before the doctrine was formally defined, which wasn't until the 19th century. In the East, it was called the Conception of Saint Anne, meaning when Saint Anne, the Blessed Virgin Mary's mother, conceived her in the womb. The West used the title of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin, but essentially we are referring to the same thing. And it was a big feast day. It's not the biggest Marian feast day. Her Assumption into heaven on August 15th is the biggest feast day. But it was still a day where you would abstain from servile labor. You'd have a big feast. Of course, you'd go to Mass in the morning. So it was a day of great celebration.
Another thing that you do is go through the Advent calendar. So do you have a drink for every single day on the Advent calendar?
No, I'm afraid I do have a drink for every day on the Advent.
Can't complain.
We call it the wet Advent calendar. And from December 1st to December 24th, we got you covered.
It might be hard for you to do a sequel in the future focusing on the Lenten calendar. The drinks would be a little bit more boring. Although I did read an article of somebody who only consumed beer, but he had some monastic argument that he wasn't just, knocking back Coors Light all the time, but it was a much more of a caloric restriction. And he had a historically justified argument. Sorry for this tangent. We'll get back to the Advent calendar, but it sounds like you've heard of this story.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, there is a tradition of drinking during Lent, and it's not to get drunk. Doppelbock beer, which is from Munich, Germany, was invented specifically for the season of Lent. It contained extra calories and vitamins to compensate for the rigors of the Lenten fast. And according to the story, the Paulaner monks would only drink this beer and some water during Lent. So this fellow, who was not Catholic, he was an evangelical Christian, about 10 years ago, decided to give this a shot. He was a home brewer, and so he designed a Doppelbock, and he tried it, and he drank nothing but beer for Lent. He lost, I think it was 30 pounds. He said he never got buzzed, but he had this tremendous spiritual clarity throughout the entire season of Lent, and he gained this respect for the discipline of the monks and what they were doing.
Yeah, it's something that sounds like you're being a glutton, but for those who actually did it, I'm sure you would feel a hollowness of not consuming any food after a while. And for the monks who did it, they would have cooked it up for the spirit of Lent, I'm guessing. How did you describe that sense that it was living during a period of poverty and abstaining from richer foods? And did he get into that aspect of it?
A little bit. I think he spoke more of sort of the communal effort of the monks and how did he put it? The tunnel of clarity that he felt as a result of this particular fast.
Well, I'd like to hear about how you constructed the Advent calendar and what are notable drinks that appear on that.
I constructed it simply by seeing who were the saints on each of these days of December. And December 8th has the Immaculate Conception, so we got the White Lady for that one. December 6th is St. Nicholas, and we have a number of drink suggestions for his feast day. And yeah, we just looked at the calendar, saw the saint, and assigned a drink.
Which ones really stick out to you alongside the ones we already discussed?
Well, you spoke of mezcal, and in the United States, December 12th is the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so we have a couple of nice mezcal recipes on her feast day. As it turns out, the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared on the tilma of St. Juan Diego. A tilma was kind of an Aztec poncho. And a tilma and mezcal are actually made from the same blue agave plant. One is made from the fiber and the other is made from the pulp. So when you have mezcal, you're actually drinking something that was made from the same thing on which the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe appears.
Okay, yeah, that fits in well. So mezcal fits into the calendar. Definitely a fan of that. Other notable drinks and dates that pop up moving along the Advent calendar?
Well, it was fun for me to learn about a couple of new saints that I hadn't heard of before. There was an Eastern saint called Saint Spiridion, who led a very remarkable life and was associated with clay jugs because he used the image of a clay pot for the Trinity. And so we found a couple of drink recipes that involve a clay jar. One of them, now it's just escaping me. It's a drink in Mexico, and it's actually more popular than a margarita. A margarita is kind of more of a Southern Californian thing than an authentic Mexican cocktail. And the number one cocktail in Mexico is the one that we actually assigned for Saint Spiridion because it comes in a small clay jar. And I'm drawing a blank on its name.
It's not pulque, is it?
No, it's actually the Spanish word for a small clay jar. And I just can't remember it.
Okay, it's the mixture of beer and the tomato juice. I forget.
No, it's a Michelado or something like that.
Yeah.
It begins with a C, I'm sure, but drawing a blank.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I'll have to look this up later.
Some brain cells were destroyed in the course of researching these.
Yeah, it was worthwhile. So we have
That's right.
we have trillions of neurons. So if you have to sacrifice a few, I think it's worth it.
That's right.
All right. Yeah. Spiridion is where was he, or did you dig up any biographical information about him?
Oh yeah. And I don't have the page open right now, but I think he was one of the saints from Cyprus, who was a gentle soul who suffered torture during the persecutions and then lived into the age of peace and became a very wise bishop.
Who are other people that you learned about in the course of this research that you hadn't heard of before?
Well, I sort of got reacquainted with Mother Cabrini. We have her listed, I think, on December 23rd. And she's a remarkable figure who did a great deal of good for the United States as basically a missionary for Italian immigrants here. And she did a lot of good in Manhattan in particular. So that was an easy one. We assigned her the Manhattan cocktail, excuse me.
Yeah, definitely. Getting into the 12 days proper of Christmas, I'm guessing there would have been points where you defaulted to connecting them with different gifts that appear in the song. Is that correct?
Well, what we've done is actually applied or created two different chapters for the 12 days of Christmas. Excuse me. The first follows the calendar. So, is St. Stephen, December 27th is St. John. We have drinks assigned for each of those 12 days between Christmas and Epiphany, which is January 6th. But then we added a special chapter, which is a special drink for each of the verses of the 12 Days of Christmas song. The partridge in the pear tree, two turtle doves. So we have special drinks for each of the images of the song. So we have a drink, partridge in a pear tree. We have a drink for the two turtle doves, the three French hens, and so on and so forth, all the way through to the Lord's a-leaping at the very end.
There was an episode of The Office where character Andy actually gets all of the things in the song as a gift, and he says it ends up being about 40 or 50 birds when you get down to
That's
it.
Right.
So how was that process when you're trying to match things up with the different gifts?
Ours was a much gentler process, and we did not harm, Aaron the secretary with violent swans in the course of the research. So no, it was a lot better. As a matter of fact, we came up short, I think, for about for 2 or 3 drinks. We couldn't find a really good drink for 10 Lords a Leaping, and we could not find a good drink for the 3 French Hens.